Good day, everyone. It's Peter Dunn, Pete the Planner. The Pete the Planner Show is back live for you on Facebook and YouTube Live, noon on Fridays. Our illustrious co-host, Damian Dunn, is off vacationing safely in parts unknown. And so, because I'm a codependent and I always need someone, I'm going to bring and introduce to you right now the person who I spend most of the day, depending on, that is my partner in crime, Olivia Zur, co-hosting parts of the program today. Olivia, welcome to the show.
Why, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Your coworkers call you Oz, which is, of course, like everything in our organization, a forced nickname that I think is a good idea, and then it sort of sticks and it gets awkward, right?
Well, it's not awkward if you like the nickname. At first, every nickname's always different the first time you hear it because you're used to different ones, but yeah. I like it a lot, and it's stuck. All
right, so we got some of our regulars showing up. We've got Danza. Now, Olivia, you often watch the show, and so you know a lot of Danza's here. Levi is here. We could see Betty soon. Yeah, Betty had a plumbing issue this morning and asked me who to call, and I said Hope Plumbing, and so then I wore my Hope Plumbing shirt today. As an extra shout out to the folks over at Hope Plumbing. I don't know why I felt like bringing that up. Now, people are already noticing. Regular Levi says that Oz, you've got a lot of books in the background. Let's. This is the speed round here. I'm going to ask you a series of questions so people get to know you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm ready.
So, of the books behind you, what percentage of those books have you read cover to cover?
An embarrassingly low amount, and the answer is because the majority of them are my partner's books. He loves to read. I'm going to say that like 20% of them are mine, and of the 20%, I've read probably 80%.
Okay.
Back.
Appreciate that honesty. People, of course, will want to learn a little bit about you here. You've been working here for just under a year, but honestly, in a good way, it feels like longer than that.
Yeah, when I first started, you were like, hey, maybe one day you'll be on the podcast, and here I am. So
oh my God.
Less than a year into it. But yeah, no, it's been great. I mean, obviously I joined in December, global pandemic started in March, but given the circumstances, working for the Pete the Planner organization and Your Money Line and Hey Money has been fantastic.
Oh,
I feel blessed.
Nice.
Yes, it's great.
It feels nice to say. So, Olivia, you know how this works. We are going to record the radio show here in just a moment. And I was like, hey, why don't you jump in for a segment or two? And then I was like, what do you want to talk about? And you came up with a really good topic. So the topic of the show will be just that this morning. Betty is just joining us now. Betty, I don't know if you saw earlier, but I'm wearing a Hope Plumbing shirt in honor of you here this morning. Hopefully your water heater situation gets taken care of. And then Oz, for the rest of the show, I am going to talk about an article I read today about the changing dynamics of women in the workplace based on the pandemic and how it could potentially set women back decades because of the uneven amount of household duties that women are taking on, including education duties for children, and what organizations and well-meaning people can do to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we'll just have an open discussion there. Jameson, hello down in Dallas. I hope you are finding yourself very Texas today. I don't know what that means. I'm running out of words. As I told Oz, I was supposed to record a bunch of videos for our clients and partners this morning. Don't have it in me. I'm out of words this week, so we'll do that next week. And so, Oz, let's just get to the show.
Let's do it.
All right, let me see how you do this now. All right. Okay, I think we're ready to go. So, counting down, your first Pete the Planner show in 3, 2. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And then I potentially answer the question on this here very show. Usually I say the word we, and when I say we, I mean Damian Dunn, but today I do not mean we in the form of Damian Dunn, but I do mean we in form of the person who actually reads the emails you send. And that's my partner in crime, Olivia Zur, better known as Oz. Oz, welcome to the program for the very first time.
Thank you, Pete. It's, of course, very fun to be here.
All right, so Oz, we've got some interesting topics this week. You're going to be joining me for a segment or two. There's something you and I are going to talk about, and then coming up in a bit, we're going to talk about a dynamic going on in the workplaces across the world right now. And that is the potential that the gap in terms of equity and equality between women in the workplace and men in the workplace is promising to grow right now because of some of the household duties and realities and education duties that women are taking on more so than men. What is happening? What is happening to the show? Hold on. We might have to restart the show.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh, everybody. For those watching on Facebook, we never restart the show, but I had a website up that then the video started. So we get to restart that segment. That's all right. We're a minute in, but you get to see how behind the scenes things work. Can you imagine a peanut commercial, an unauthorized peanut commercial right in the middle of the show?
At least I know it wasn't me. Oh my gosh.
Did you for a moment were you like, what have I done wrong?
Yeah, I was like, Pete, come on, man.
Here's what Damien knows about co-hosting the show. If something goes wrong, it's always my fault.
It's always Pete. It's fine.
It really is.
Too.
All right. So
twice.
All right. So now, just so you know, I have to restart the browser. So you won't be able to hear me for a second here. Oh man, everybody, how embarrassing for me. Hold on a second. What's funny is Oz is like the premier problem solver in our office as it relates to all the problems I create. She's usually the one that's solving them. And so it's nice that she's here and I actually am forced to solve my own problems today. All right. As soon as this health check finishes here, we will restart the show. That was fun.
Take one.
Oz, do you think that'll calm the nerves even more now that you get to do it again?
Yeah, I might say something more interesting when you say, are you happy to be on the show? Delighted, you know?
Danza wants to know, do you really go by Oz, or is it just a Pete thing?
No, I definitely go by Oz. Actually, in a past life, I definitely went by my last name more in college. Zer, just because it's short, easy to say. Those short, easy to say nicknames definitely stick. But I like Oz. I prefer Oz, I think.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So here we go in 3, 2. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. And if the open to this show sounds familiar to you, you are either a regular listener to the show or it's deja vu. This week on the show, the questions we will answer will revolve around women in investing and a special topic to my heart. I read an article recently about, unfortunately, how the gender equity gap will grow in our country because of all of our realities in terms of parenting and education and household duties, because we're all stuck at home during this work from home period because of the pandemic. So we're going to talk about how well-intentioned people and leaders of organizations can advocate for women to make sure that that gap does not grow, because I think we are all better off with equity in the workplace. Joining me, because Damien Dunn is on vacation, happens to be my partner in the workplace, Olivia Zer, better known as Oz. Oz, welcome to the program.
Hi, Pete. No, it is a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
When people email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com, that is an email address that you happen to sort through. And Oz, let's be honest with the folks here, why I don't personally check that email inbox. And you know the real truth here, and you are welcome to share it with them.
Yeah. Well, first off, it's a bit crazy. Second off, people give honest feedback, and some people have feedback that Pete doesn't necessarily want to start his morning with every single day. So it's few and far in between, but it happens. So
the strange side effect of printing your email address in USA Today on a weekly basis is that people will take the opportunity with the current level of vitriol in our atmosphere, and they will unleash it on me. And I don't need to start my day that way. So by proxy, Olivia starts her day by reading all the people who dislike me. All right, Oz, you and I knew we were going to do a show today. And so I said, hey, what do you want to talk about? And you brought up a really interesting topic that I want to spend some time on. So hit it with us, or hit us with it, I should say.
Yeah. So for background, I'm 24 and I'm a woman. So I have never invested in the stock market, and I've always been wanting to. And so when I was kind of brainstorming things that people in their mid-20s might be either thinking about or something that's on their mind financially, I know that the stock market is probably something that lots of 20-year-olds are like, hey, should I be in it? Should I not be in it? regardless of the global pandemic, the recession, all that stuff, just thinking long term, is it wise for me to invest? And so I did some research on this, and obviously women invest in the stock market less than men. And there's lots of, things pointing to the fact that maybe it's because we're risk adverse, maybe we just like to save more and know where our money is. But so I really wanted to talk with Pete today and figure out, one, is there a better mechanism for people who are risk adverse to grow their money if they have that extra cash? Or really, is there, how do women know when to enter? What do we do? I was even talking with my mom about this earlier, and I know so many well-educated women who just don't know where to start, and then they just don't do anything. So that's kind of where we're at.
I love this topic, and there's been a lot of academic research around this topic. And I believe the one that I tend to reference a lot, I believe it was from UCLA, that says when women do invest, they tend to be better investors than men. And the reason why, sort of the qualitative reason why, Oz, is the same reason women don't invest in the first place. And it's this: when women typically don't know what to do, and this is, again, a qualitative analysis of this, they tend to not do anything. They don't just guess. And men, sort of the aggressive personality traits of men is when they don't know what to do, they just assume they know what to do.
Right.
And do it anyway, and oftentimes find themselves in a lurch because of that. So it's really strange that women certainly don't invest as much as men, but it's that same reason why they don't as to what makes them really good investors.
Yeah, I think we want all the answers first. I want to know if I'm going to put money in that I'm doing it correctly, and I don't blindly make decisions. I mean, sometimes I make them too quickly, but I don't blindly make them. So yeah.
Now, I don't have the data to support this next assertion, but at least I admitted it. I would guess that men tend to gamble in terms of Vegas and online gambling and sports gambling more than when women gamble. Would you agree with that assertion?
I would assume so, yes. I personally am not a gambler. I watched a show last night that included a lot of sports betting, and it caused me anxiety. I just was like, I don't know about this. And it's even legal now, but it's still something that you probably won't see me in Las Vegas soon, people. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, and I would also say, to that point, to the extreme with gambling, I would assume that most women actually don't have a gambling problem, right? So if you look at who has a gambling problem by gender, it's likely to be more men, not only because they tend to gamble more, but because of the personality traits of men in general. Anyway, so Oz, where I think this becomes interesting is, how does a woman who has apprehension around investing, how does that woman get off the porch, so to speak, and get to play, which is to get in the market? And I think traditionally, the investment advice industry has struggled with this question, and it's because men have tried to answer the question.
Yes.
Right?
I think you're absolutely right, because we think differently. If I were to go to an investment advisor who's male, he would most likely want to put my assets in the stock market in the way that he would do it, rather than the way that I maybe would do it. And so I think that that middle ground is what causes fear.
Here's what I've learned in being in the financial industry for 20 years is that A, I don't have all the answers, but B, men don't have all the answers. However, it is a predominantly male industry, which means it is important for people who understand that to encourage more women to be in the industry. And not only that, but Oz, I'll just tell you flat out, if you have apprehension about investing, you need a female investment advisor. That is the beginning of this solution. Because if I were to try to talk you in to getting in the market, I'm going to make my arguments based on things that I value as a male's view of the market.
Absolutely.
And if I happen to be a woman, then I might view the situation a little bit differently, and I can say more meaningful things to you that will resonate, that'll help with that particular situation.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's probably the key. It's just like, where do you find those women, and then can you even ask for a woman? The rules behind that seem,
Well, here's the thing. There's nothing. First of all, there is no rule, and second of all, even if there was, don't you think you deserve the best advice you can get? Even
Everyone
if
deserves the best advice they can get. No matter what it is, investments, purchasing real estate, you always want someone who's on your side.
Yeah, and I would say this. So in one of my columns that I write for the Indianapolis Business Journal. And that column, when I write, it's a little different from my USA Today column. And the reason it's different is because the audience is different. And anytime I reference a financial advisor in that column, I always reference that advisor is female. And the reason I do that is because I want to push the narrative that there are plenty of great financial advisors out there that also happen to be women. Now, Oz, you are in a committed relationship. You are doing well financially. You're very smart. And I think a lot more women need to have their own financial advisors who are women or men, whatever you want. But I think part of solving the problem at hand here is to look at gender solving some of the issues too.
I agree. Let's get more women in the investment business, and I'm going to go find myself an investment advisor, and we're going to do it.
Yeah, I love it. And I'll tell you, a lot of times in our industry, we celebrate like 40 under 40 in investing. Let's stop with that. And let's feature more lists of great women and advisors, great diverse advisors in terms of Black advisors and Latinx advisors. So coming up after the break, more on this topic. I'm Pete the Planner, and this is the Pete the Planner Show. All right, everyone who's commenting that Oz's audio is soft on Facebook. It is soft on Facebook. We heard it going in, but she does not have all the broadcasting equipment that Vacation Damian Dunn has. Oz, how about you? Hey. That went fast, doesn't it? Go fast?
Yeah, I was like, but I always know you hit it. I mean, sometimes you don't hit it, I'll be honest, but at least you did this time.
Yeah. So that was good. So here's what I think we're going to do, because I don't want your audio to be distracting too much to people on Facebook. I am going to continue to explore this topic. Okay. And I will have you just watch online with the other folks. You did a fantastic job, of course.
Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you for giving me
the... I couldn't be as funny as Damian, but I had to sound... It was my first run. I had to be intelligent, kind of,
Wait. The takeaway here is Damian's funny?
You two are super funny. I was like, maybe I can be funny with Pete, but I think talking seriously about something, for the first time at least, having my audience, I couldn't be that funny. So.
When Damian comes back next week, we've got a giant Pete is wrong, Damian is right moment that we're going to discuss on the show.
So like every week, right? No,
well, that's true. All right, Oz. I thank you so much, and I will talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
All right. See ya. All right. So it's funny. I used to do this show for a very long time by myself. And so to now have to do it again by myself, honestly, is a little bit of a challenge, because I've always had someone like Dame or a great coworker like Olivia to jump in as well. By the way, Damian totally violated bro code. He is on vacation, and we talked last week about being fun. And, he said he's not fun, and we all know that I'm not fun. And then he went and did something crazy to start his vacation. He made like a really fun dad move that I feel that was like really aggressive at me. He did something really fun for his family, and I'm taking it personally, and I'll let him tell you about it when he gets back. But needless to say, it upstaged me. Fellow co-worker, Kristen jumps in. Damian is funny. See, she knows. I think Dame's watching right now on vacation, which is, I think, wonderful. It'd be nice if he wants to be part of the Facebook chatter and come in. All right. So here's what we're going to do. In our workplace, we've noticed a trend working from home, all of us working from home. And that trend really does draw, again, down gender dynamic lines. So in this next segment, we're going to examine that and see where it goes. You just never know. All right. I miss you, Dame. You're funny. Okay. 3. Why am I counting down? It's just me. Who am I counting down for? Back on the Pete the Planner Show. Oh, it's just me. If you've listened to this show for how long has this show been on? 12 years. There were times when this was a solo show, just me talking to you. It was a very intimate relationship, and we're back to that moment now. My co-host Damian Dunn is on vacation. My coworker Olivia Zur joined us the last segment to talk about women in investing. She did a fantastic job. And I'll tell you, in this financial world that I happen to live in, and I'm no longer a financial advisor, I was a financial advisor, there are a number of weak spots, a number of growth opportunities within the financial workforce. And the first one, very honestly, is the lack of equity in terms of men and women in the financial industry. There is no reason to think that a woman financial advisor is any way less superior than a male financial advisor. I mean, to take that approach would be ridiculous. Here's the thing, though. We have been socialized, I should say, to just think that men are better investment advisors because that's the way it was. Women didn't work in the industry. They had other jobs like marketing and this and that. But the reality is, some of the best investment advisors I know are women. One of the best financial advisors in the world happens to be a friend of mine, and she has been recognized consistently as one of the best financial advisors in the world. She happens to also live in central Indiana, where I live. Her name is Elaine Beadle. She has been recognized as one of the best financial planners in the country repeatedly. And oddly enough, not one of the best financial planners, the one best financial planner. Her firm made just last week the top 100 investment advisory firms in the country on CNBC. So when you go to select your financial advisor and you want a different approach from all of the stereotypical advice you get, which often comes from men, why not kick the tires, so to speak, on a female financial advisor? There's nothing wrong with that. And by the way, if you happen to be a man, which every once in a while I'm accused of being, just generally with my stubbornness, you can have a female financial advisor too. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Because ultimately, aren't you trying to get a different perspective, a fresh perspective, some different way to look at a situation that needs objective advice from the outside than your own? You don't want your financial advisor necessarily to be an echo chamber within your own head. And I think a lot of times that's what happens. You hear people say, financial advisors are a dime a dozen. How can you tell them apart? How do I get a good one or a bad one? I'll tell you this. If you look at it from a gender perspective, you'll look at it a little bit differently and you'll do yourself a service in doing so. Since we're talking gender today, I have to tell you, I read an article. It came out in September, late September, and it's from the Society of Human Resources Managers. I believe that's the acronym SHRM. I should really know that. I mean, we live in the world of SHRM, and my organization, my coworkers currently are upset. Oh, look at this. Hold on a second. Oh, actually, I was about to react to Facebook Live on the radio, but that doesn't really help people on the radio because you can't see what's going on Facebook Live as we record this live noon on Fridays. But you know what? I'll bring it in anyway, and I'll just read it. A regular viewer of the Facebook live streams, a woman named Ann, she says, I'm about to be officially certified as an AFC, which for those that don't know is an accredited financial counselor. I've been strongly considering pursuing the CFP certification. For those that don't know, it is the Certified Financial Planner designation. These types of stories, conversations make it even more appealing. Ann, thanks for weighing in. And I'll tell you, both you, Ann, and everyone else listening, the majority, vast majority of our advice team at Your Moneyline and Hey Money are women. Why? Because the operative vibe of our entire organization is empathy. And if we want to hire a group of people that tend to be more empathetic as they look at a financial situation, very frankly, women are the right place to look. That is their great advantage over men. Now, I don't want to get too deep into stereotypes, but we are having an honest, transparent, and arguably uncomfortable conversation, so I'm okay saying that. This article I found on the SHRM website, it's at shrm.org. is entitled "The Pandemic Imperils Working Mothers' Careers." As the nation's health and financial crises drag on, experts worry that the strides women have made in the workforce are being negated, pushing equity further out of reach. It's by a woman by the name of Teresa Agavino, wrote the article, and there's just some absolutely stunning statistics here that are worth considering. And when you read statistics like this, it's one thing to feel bad for people who are in this situation. It's a whole other thing to think, what can my role be in trying to solve this problem? And as a leader of an organization, I try to at least ask myself that question, because I know that my current reality, especially the last 6 or 7 months, isn't shared not only by everyone in the world, but more specifically, even within our small workforce. And a lot of times gender has a lot to do with it. Consider some of these statistics. 60% of working parents have no outside help in caring for and educating their children. Okay, that's a big number. That is the majority. Now let's get into some gender dynamics around it. Parents now spend an additional 27 hours a week on household chores, childcare, and education. Okay, an additional 27 hours of the 168 hours that we all have to work with. There are 27 more hours that need to be reallocated from whatever they were going to into these new tasks. Women currently spend 15 more hours per week than men do on domestic labor. Close to half of respondents of this survey feel that their performance at work has decreased because of these added responsibilities. You know, we talk about equality, but the real conversation here is about equity. If people at home are not doing an equal share, and by the way, let's just be honest here, I'm not doing an equal share. I'm not. I try to, but I'm not. If people aren't doing an equal share at home, how can they be expected to do an equal share at work when they have more hours dedicated to things that need to get done at home? You see, in our culture at work, people often talk about, well, you can have a flexible schedule, just get it done when you get it done. At what point of those 15 additional hours being added to a person's workload at home, are they supposed to just stay up till 2 a.m.? Is that the current solution we're dealing with? And if you happen to be a single mother or a single father for that matter, because the dynamics are the same at that point, how about the additional 27 hours? When are you supposed to get that work done? I think if nothing else comes from this pandemic, and God, I hope a lot comes from this pandemic in a positive way, because we've had certainly a lot of the negative. I hope if nothing else, we can reconsider what it means to have a healthy life-work balance. You know, we've talked on this show in the last few weeks, even that, you know, we used to talk about it in terms of work-life balance. If nothing else, that dynamic has almost permanently shifted. We've got to look at this a little differently. This is about life-work balance. What's more important, work or life? Well, life's more important. And I think if you get like-minded people within an organization, you're going to have a more powerful organization. We're going to talk more about this after the break. And we actually do have a financial question as well today. But I want you to consider this. If a person can have 4 days of work instead of 5, it's possible they're more productive in totality during those 4 days than if they were forced to work 5 and take on those additional 27 hours of duties at home. So we'll touch on that after the break. Also, we do have a 529 question, so I feel somewhat qualified to answer that. This is the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Oh, man, you know what, guys? It's been so long since I've done a solo radio segment. It's funny because with having someone like Damien on the show, it is the biggest crutch in the world for me. Why? Because he knows more than I do about money, right? He can roll with the punches. He can go. And then so what the sort of the joke of the show is that, yes, it's my show, but I can actually be he can be the straight man, and I can just sit there and make jokes and play off of him. When it's you alone, Like some of the jokes go away and it becomes a more serious show because you actually have to carry the show. Dame typically carries the show, right? Now he knows. All right, let's see what's going on Facebook right now. Dame says he won't be suckered into participating in running afoul of vacation policy, but yet Dame texted me on vacation the day and I said, I'm not answering this text because you're on vacation. But if he were to participate, he'd say that women advisors are more apt to provide a cooperative relationship that many people desire. Well, Cassie, if you were happen to talk to a person who's on vacation right now that just said that, tell him I agree. Danza, I'm digging this. Odd should brace herself for some hot emails. You know what? That's a great point, Danza. How fair is it that I deliver my thoughts on this and that she gets to read the hot dumpster fire? Whatever. It's true. Grant, Pete breaking down the fourth wall. Yeah, I'm gonna have to Google that. I know what it is, but then I kind of don't. You know, I made the admission on Twitter this morning that I will physically cringe and audibly guffaw, if not use profanity in weird moments, just simply thinking about obnoxious things I've said to people in the past, right? I wonder if you do that too, but like I'll think back on certain moments or conversations, and it's usually when I try to be cool or edgy or funny, and you say something, and then you get some distance from that moment. You're like, oh my God, I cannot believe I said that. There are certain people, if I see their name or see their face or a picture of them or something like that, I immediately think about the moment that I embarrassed my entire lineage. And usually it's not something too severe, but it's enough to just make you absolutely lose your mind. Oh, good Lord. All right. So this segment, we might a little bit more about gender equity. We are going to talk about 529 plans. I actually got a really good question on Twitter this week about that. And then we'll see where it goes from there. Good Lord. Thanks everybody for sticking around. Even those people on vacation. I was about to count down again. Bad habits. We're back on the Pete the Planner show. Little different show for you this week. Damian Dunn, the co-host with most of the intelligence of this group, is on vacation this week. He will be back next week after upstaging me with a move of fun that he will never live down. He'll tell you about it next week. Olivia Zur, my colleague, joined us in the first segment and asked a really good question, which has really dictated the direction of the show here today. And that's like young millennial women. Millennial women statistically are not actively participating in the stock market to the level that men of their same age are. And this has actually been an issue for several generations. But what we're seeing is this group of millennial women are as educated, if not more educated than their male peers. They are earning as high as salaries as their male peers. In some instances, the pay gap still exists, but they are not taking the next step in terms of putting that money to work in the form of investments in the stock market, even with real estate investing in those things as well. So then that turned into a conversation about gender in the workplace and how this pandemic has really set women back because of duties at home. And it's not that those duties automatically go to women who are performing some of those tasks. It's that the women are stepping up and doing those duties. I think that's the nuance of this conversation. Women are potentially, and people who study this are potentially worried about women being set back in the workplace because the women are the ones who have stepped up at home. Have I tried to step up at home? Yeah, but probably not to the level that my wife has stepped up with what we're all dealing with right now. Now, also consider this. There are, of course, people who do not have the ability to work from home. So that adds additional complexities with sending their children to daycare, to school, and then dealing with the realities of this pandemic if they're a single working parent. So it creates a lot of challenges. All right. Listen, everybody. I got a tweet this week from, actually, if I think about it, friend of the show, Lindsay Hine. She's got a great podcast, 3 podcasts, oddly enough, one on running, and one on parenting. And oddly enough, I can't remember what the third one's about, but she should only have one. No, she's great. She has 3. The question was, should each child in your household have their own savings account and have their own 529 account, which is their own college savings vehicle? And it opened up a little bit of a discussion online, which I thought was pretty interesting. And it's a rather common question, but the reason why the answer is one way as opposed to the other way actually is the most interesting part of it all. So, and I'm going to talk about the state of Indiana because I happen to live in the state of Indiana. And if I'm going to talk about 529 plans, I want to talk about Indiana's 529 plan, not because they compensate me to talk about their 529 plan, although they do in commercials, but because I just happen to understand it best. Okay, so in the state of Indiana, if you put $5,000 a year as a household into a 529 plan or a series of 529 plans, but it's $5,000 in aggregate, you get $1,000 in the form of a state tax credit or a 20% state tax credit, depending on whatever you put on, but it caps at $5,000. Okay. So what some parents do is they hear that there's a $5,000 cap and they say, well, I'll just put it all in one count. It'll be for Billy. He's the oldest, and Sally, she's the youngest. But you know what? It's for both of them. We just have one account because you only get the one tax credit. And so we'll just use it for Billy, and then we'll split it off, and Sally will get some of it too when she goes to school a couple years later. So in theory, that kind of works, right? Because from a tax credit standpoint, you've maxed out the tax credit. So from a tax standpoint, it just doesn't matter whether you have 1 or 2 accounts. However, from a practical standpoint, when you get to Billy getting to school and Sally going to school, it gets rather complex. And here's why. Let's say Billy isn't going to go to a cheap school. Billy goes to a private school that's very expensive. Doesn't get a lot of scholarship money because he's terrible at soccer. And so in order to make the economics of the plan work, you draw a disproportionate amount of the funds for the 529 for Billy's education. And because practically, here's what I know, when parents are making those tough financial decisions around college in the moment, when a kid gets into their dream school and they're fighting and scrapping to find any way they can possibly pay for it, what they often do, even if they've mentally allocated a portion of the money to another sibling, they will take a disproportionate amount of that funding and put it towards the first student going to school. So in turn, what I'm telling you is Sally gets the short end of the stick, right? Because Billy is going to require more of that money. And so then they spend it, and they often say, well, we'll figure out what to do with Sally later. And they don't. And it just ends up not being fair to Sally. This is why I absolutely recommend that every child has their own college savings plan. Yes, you can have one plan and use it for the whole family. I'm just telling you, if we're trying to be practical here, and as a parent, you try your best to be fair, even when you try to teach your kids that there's no such thing as fair, you should have separate accounts. Not only that, but because you're better able to equalize them along the way. For instance, in our household, we have one child who's 3 years younger than the other child in our household. And so we can do the math, which I enjoy doing in spreadsheets, as you might imagine, as to at what pace is this child on versus what pace is this child on in terms of trying to hit our college savings goals. Now, let's say this. Let's say you get to your first child and you don't end up using their whole 529 plan because they get a scholarship. Now, here's the interesting part. I have a sister who is 3 years older than me who went on a full ride scholarship to as an athlete at a Division I school. Obviously, you can see me. I needed all the financial assistance I could get because A, I wasn't going to get an academic scholarship. B, wasn't going to get an athletic scholarship. And C, there weren't any broadcasting scholarships. So my parents had to end up spending more on my college education than my sister's, even though my sister was the firstborn, right? So it's very important to have separate accounts for that reason. Another reason, let's say you've got a family member or a friend who likes to give gifts to your kids. You know, that's still a thing. And maybe they want to give a cash gift or some sort of monetary gift. You can give them the gift code for the child's account and it has more meaning to it, right? If it's Sally's birthday, but they have to deposit a gift into an account that has Billy's name on it, it sort of takes away a little bit of the meaning and the well-intentioned generosity of making a deposit in the kid's account. So yes, I like separate 529 accounts. On top of that, let's go ahead and take a moment to talk about banking. I think your kids should have their own bank account. Now, it is worth noting, I have some weird views on banking, and I'll share them with you, and I don't expect you to adopt them, but they're really weird. For instance, all my coworkers and close friends love to mock me because I still pay my mortgage in person at the bank every single month. Why? Because when I was a kid and my mom used to take me to the bank in Speedway, Indiana, it was my favorite thing to do because I loved just the dynamics of walking into a bank, making a deposit, making a withdrawal. It felt really tangible to me. And there's something about that relationship that I enjoy the physical dynamic of it. So I still go pay my mortgage. And so I can get this little yellow piece of paper that tells me my mortgage balance at the end of each month and based on what my payment was that month. So I that's weird. I know. Right? So I really like that. But it's also why I want your kid to have their own separate bank account so they can begin to have that relationship. They can know that money is in the bank for them. And they know if they make money at their lemonade stand, they could go down to the bank and deposit it. I think it just paints a really good picture, especially in a time in which most people's digital thoughts, there you go, monetary thoughts tend to be digital. Coming up after the break, the biggest waste of money of the week and current events. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the show. Okay, lots of people weighing in here. Let's go. Levi says, if I average anything less than 50% of household childcare, I can't call myself a feminist. Man, that's a really good point. I like to think of myself as a feminist, but I also know that I probably don't deliver on that assertion as much as I should. So I don't feel like I should rightfully call myself a feminist. I remember over the years in writing newspaper articles and doing this show that I would get emails from pretty hateful emails from men saying that I'm just trying to get in with women. And that's why I make these comments in support of women. And you want to say when you hear that criticism, well, that's not true. But why wouldn't you want to support women? Like, I don't understand. You know, it's when someone accuses you of something that they think is bad, and then you just accept that feedback as, yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm doing, right? But because you view what they view to be bad is actually good. Yeah, I'm actually trying to support women. That's exactly what I'm doing. Thanks for asking. Danza says, thank you for saying childcare instead of babysitting. It is a very important distinction, right? Jameson on the 529 stuff. My in-laws gift into our kids' 529 accounts, and I am grateful they live in Indiana and can take advantage of the Indiana state tax credit. Oh, that's right, because they probably have Indiana-based accounts. Very smart, and the in-laws take advantage of it as well. Oh, here come the banking jokes. You also carried it in a bag with $1 on it, or with a dollar sign on it. You know, you want to go a little further with my weird banking? My savings bank, my savings account is at a bank that I don't have my checking account at, and I don't have online or ATM access to those savings. So to withdraw money from my savings account, I have to go in physically and withdraw cold, hard paper cash. I got problems, guys. Sometimes you should listen to me. Sometimes you should just laugh at me and feel sorry for me. Danza, I have happy kid memories of going to the bank. They had a penny gumball machine. Oh my gosh. Grant just topped off my 529. Thanks for the inspiration. The international plan looked like the best bargain. Yeah, maybe. Right? Maybe. All right, let me restart the segment and we'll get into biggest waste of money of the week. Let me tell you this, between you and me, it is a lot harder doing the show without Dame. I knew that going into today, which is why I had Oz blow out my calendar so I could actually dedicate some energy to this. But it's weird because I got my chops in radio by not really having a co-host, although at the very beginning I had a co-host, my good friend Chip. but it's a whole different vibe. Just makes you more serious. Some people like the show more because it is more serious. But then it also gets, it starts to feel really opinionated, and it feels like this guy on a soapbox who's like, and this is the way it is. And you don't ever want to come off like that. I appreciate your patience on this today, everybody. I really do. All right, let me see what I'm looking for. All right, so here's the question that we're going to put to you while I'm looking up what I need to look up. Are you going to let your kids trick or treat? Yes or no? You don't have to defend your answer. I'm just curious, yes or no. If you want to say yes or no, that's fine. If you want to say why, that's fine. Don't argue with each other. I'm just curious if you are going to have your kids trick or treat, or if you don't have kids, are you going to answer the doorbell and hand your infected candy to the kids? Don't let me influence you. Let me know, are you trick or treating? That's the question at hand right now. At our house, we are not trick or treating. We are not accepting trick or treaters. We are having an outdoor party next door with our neighbors. Just the two of us, just the two families outdoor, where we're going to enjoy holiday treats outdoors. All right. So just at family houses. Anne says she's trick-or-treating. Jameson says Damien completes me. Okay. He might. Done. All right. Sorry, everybody. I'm looking for a Blom, and then we will jump back onto the show here in just a moment. Whoa. Oh. Okay, maybe this is the one. That's it. Okay, ready to start the show. My kids are little. They won't make it to very many houses, and that's a good point. Doug says, light will be off and hide in basement again this year. Oh, my gosh. I go back. It's really about my mood, which is not surprising to people who know me. Like, sometimes I love the trick-or-treaters. I love to talk to them. But then when the middle schoolers show up and they're just like, oh, I just want... I hate that. I'm not into that. Let's start the show. Danza says it used to be you might just risk getting a razor blade in your candy. Now it's getting cooties. I like it. Good use of cooties. All right, here we go. Restarting the radio show. I'm going to count down for Levi. I think it threw him off last time. And Oz weighing back in. We got to get her in before we go. Oz says, if a kid comes to my door, I think I would give them candy, mostly because I have an exceptional amount of candy left from last year because the weather deterred the kids. So there you go. It's from Oz. Money-saving tip. Give rotting old candy to people. Thanks, Oz. Very frugal. This week's biggest waste of money of the week, the Blom, right here on the Pete the Planner Show, is the Outlier 001 Ultra Suede Snap Tight Mask. Face coverings aren't going anywhere anytime soon, and companies have begun to develop the perfect one. Outlier may have hit the nail on the head with their 001. It says 001, but in terms of reading copy, I don't know how to say that. So I'm just saying 001 like it's 007. 001 Ultra Suede Snap Tight Mask. The bandana-style mask is lined with a super soft ultra suede on the inside for a comfortable surface on the skin, while an injected linen shell creates a breathable barrier on the exterior. Am I the only one that appreciates the phrase breathable barrier on the exterior? There's also an internal pocket for filters and a nose bridge to keep it in place. For quick attachment, a magnetic closure easily clicks together, and its placement behind the neck allows for more ear-friendly wear. All right, so that's pretty intense. There's suede involved. There's several layers. It's bandana style. $75. That seems like a lot. I have two masks that I wear. I wear a Pacers mask, go blue and gold. A Pacers mask that I think was like $6. And I have a Paisley mask, which surprises no one, from Old Navy. I don't know how much it was. It's probably $5, right? $75 for a mask seems like an exorbitant amount. On this show, we love to talk about the Robinhood website. Robinhood, of course, is day trading for people who want to day trade. And so I guess what you need to understand here is that Robinhood continues to stay in the news for really strange reasons. For instance, it took Soraya Bagheri a day to learn that 450 shares of Moderna had been liquidated in her Robinhood account and that $10,000 in withdrawals were pending. But after alerting the online brokerage to what she believed was a theft in progress, she received a frustrating email. The firm wrote it would investigate and respond within a few weeks. Now all her money is gone. Bagheri is among 5 Robinhood customers who recounted similar experiences in Bloomberg News, saying that they've been left in limbo in recent weeks after someone sold their investments and withdrew funds because the wildly popular app has no emergency phone number. Okay, so you know my feelings around Robinhood. I feel like it gamifies investing to a detriment. I feel like it takes people who should not invest, and no, not everyone should invest. If you don't have any financial stability, investing is a bad decision. And then so the novice hearing that will say, well, shouldn't you invest to get stability? No, you should have savings to create stability. And once you have a level of stability, then maybe invest in a platform. And of course, you should always put money into your retirement plan at work. But to pick your investments on your own in the wild, wild west of online trading prior to having stability is a giant mistake. And Robinhood simply just doesn't care, in my opinion. It's my opinion. I'm not accusing them of anything other than they love the novice investor. And in this situation, the ability to call and talk to a customer service person because you feel like someone's stolen your money and you're told that they will get back to you in weeks. Meanwhile, your money's gone and there's nothing you can do about it. That seems bad. That seems really bad. The SEC and FINRA have declined to comment on this case so far, but I think sooner rather than later, Robinhood is going to have to answer to the fact that if something goes wrong with their accounts, you can't actually talk to someone on the phone. I don't know why I'm about to say what I'm about to say. Why am I doing this? Damien is currently cringing. Here's the thing. Sometimes you need people to solve people's problems. Artificial intelligence, bots, all of those things don't solve people's problems. Why am I saying this? Well, it just happens to be one of my organization's biggest competitors just announced a large artificial intelligence component to financial advice that solves people's problems with a computer. Here's what I know. Money's not about math. It's about behavior. It's about understanding really troubling dynamics of a situation, putting the puzzle together, making some chess moves, not checker moves, and then seeing it through with accountability. I'm telling you, that can't happen with artificial intelligence. The future of money isn't computers. It's relationships, and that's okay. Walmart divides Black Friday deals into 3 separate events that kick off online. Walmart said on Wednesday of this past week that it will have in-store Black Friday sales, but it's breaking them up into 3 different sales events. The big box retailer is taking safety precautions such as having employees distribute sanitized shopping carts and limiting the number of customers inside the store. Scott McCall, Executive Vice President and Chief Merchandising Officer for Walmart US, said the company wants to deliver on low prices, convenience, and safety, no matter how customers choose to shop. Again, I think you're going to start seeing more and more stores make decisions like that because of not only the practicality of not getting their stores flooded with people during a pandemic, but more importantly, they have to show that they're nimble enough to care about the concerns, the health concerns of other people. Now, if there was any story that hit the news this week that hit me in what was a very predictable way, but still a very upsetting way, it was the news that Social Security cost of living adjustment for 2021 will be 1.3%. Here's what this means. Every year, if you happen to receive Social Security income as a retiree, you receive what's called a COLA, or a cost of living adjustment. That increase typically accounts for what's happening with inflation and the cost of living. And as you might know, we're in a recession and a pandemic and a bunch of other things. The increase this year is 1.3%. The average cost of living adjustment since 2010 has been 1.4%. So it's slightly below that. It is in line with previous estimates from the Senior Citizens League of America. You know, it's hard to hear the word league without thinking of the Justice League. And I just wonder if the Justice League and the Senior Citizens League got into like an all-out Royal Rumble. I mean, you got people throwing walkers. It's getting pretty dangerous. I don't know. I'm not suggesting the government should have made the cost of living increase more than 1.3%, because I really don't think they've got the financial wherewithal to pull that off. But that's good. That's going to be interesting. You know, we've kept the show rather upbeat today, in light of the fact that we're talking about some pretty tough topics. But I do want to paint a slightly uncomfortable picture to leave you all to think about for the next 168 hours, and that is this. The end of the year brings a certain season every year that we've all come to accept in some way, shape, or form, and that is that December also signifies layoff season. Not layaway, that's different, and that starts in November. Layoff season. That organizations try to hit their numbers not by the amount of revenue they are receiving in December, but oftentimes by the number of expenses they're eliminating to hit their budget. Thus, they receive bonuses and they can stay employed. And one of the ways organizations do this is through the layoff. I think it's worth noting that there's a lot of well-intentioned businesses across our country who have done the best they could to keep their ship afloat during trying times. And so when layoff season comes around this year, it could have a completely different vibe to it. It could not only be them trying to hit their numbers, but it could also be throwing in the towel, understandably to some degree, on what was a superhuman effort to keep the ship afloat. And so what I worry about going into the next 10 weeks or so is, when does that start happening and how does that affect the other dynamics of what's going on in the economy? And it's with that, I bid you adieu. I'm not saying that jokingly. I think about it a lot. So, hey, I'm sending you good vibes. Good vibes are all that's in the budget. Thank God. Dame will be back next week. I'm Pete the Planner. This certainly was a show. All right, everybody. So there's the heavy lifting. I have a conference call in 8 minutes, so I can't hang out and talk too much. I'll just say this, a different vibe to the show today. I'm glad Olivia's great, as you can imagine. She's sort of my right hand. It was nice to talk about gender and the workplace and gender and investing. If you're going to ever interview financial advisors to be your financial advisor, and you know, I often recommend talking to 2 or 3 to get a vibe right. Talk to a woman. Have them be at least one of the people you interview, right? Or have them be all 3 that you interview. If you're looking for a different perspective in your financial life, and I'm talking to you if you're a man, there's nothing wrong with getting a woman's perspective as it relates to your finances. That's all I'm saying. So, all right, that's it. I'm going to get off my soapbox, but I really do enjoy the view from the soapbox because I'm only 5'9". Have a good weekend, everybody. Good